opened a couple reviews where we put some dirt in your eye.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Spider-Man 3 is a film that's hated even by its own director. Easily the worst of the Sam Raimi trilogy, and one of the biggest downfalls is its terrible romance.
This isn't about you. This is about me.
The past two movies builds up relationship with MJ as Peter's ultimate goal, but now we know that that relationship he always wanted is lackluster at best and toxic at worst. We began with life being established as better for Peter than it had been in the past two films.
I've come a long way from being the boy who was bit by a spider. Back then, nothing seemed to go right for me. Now,
Look at Spider-Man! Wow!
people really like me.
Spider-Man is respected by the general public, and Peter is getting better at juggling responsibilities.
I still get to school, top of my class.
They don't actually clarify this, but it's possible that Spider-Man has decreased crime rates since the last film, and now he has more time to watch MJ's performances. I think it was actually a good idea to establish a positive status quo this time around. Positive status quos can be just as compelling because you give the hero a lot to lose. Also, if they kept showing Peter to be just as miserable as he was in the first two films, we would eventually give up hope on him ever being happy. We needed some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. Things are going well with MJ at first.
Tell me again. Was I really good? I was so nervous. My knees were shaking.
Your knees were fine.
The applause wasn't very loud.
Yes, it was. It's the acoustics. It's all about diffusion. It keeps the sound waves from grouping. You see, when the sound waves, they propagate, then it's like an
You are such a nerd.
Okay, fine, that was cute, but don't get used to this.
You know what?
Hmm.
I'd like to sing on stage for the rest of my life with you in the first row.
I'll be there.
The scene is alright, I guess, though the dialogue is pretty generic and lacking any personality.
Tell me you love me.
I love you. I love you so much. I always have.
There's a subplot about Peter's intent to ask MJ to marry him. This doesn't really change the direction the story goes as much as it's supposed to add a layer of emotion to events that would have happened without it. For example, when MJ blows up at him later, it's a bigger setback because he wanted to propose that night. But we're getting out of ourselves. Do you remember Harry from the first two films? Well, he gives himself superpowers, puts on some hand-me-down goblin tech, and tries to kill Peter. The result is him temporarily losing some of his memories, including his vow to kill Spider-Man. And Peter doesn't tell MJ about any of this.
I got here as fast as I could.
I know that face.
How you doing?
I don't know. Last thing I remember, I was fine. Somewhere.
You're still fine. I think he's gonna be fine.
I think so.
And you guys seem great.
Yeah.
Peter, why are you... Don't you want her to be informed about the person she'll be spending several scenes with? I can't believe this Joker spent so much time not dating her because he wrongfully thought that would keep her safe, and then he kept her in the dark when he should have known that that's the most dangerous thing he could do to her. Parker, communication. You suck at it. Will you please tell her the truth about things before she finds out in the most life-threatening way possible?
They hated it. They hated me.
Listen, you are great. That's a critic. This is something you're gonna have to get used to. Believe me, I know. Spider-Man gets attacked all the time.
This isn't about you. This is about me.
I understand that he's not helping, but you don't have to bite his head off for trying.
Right back on the horse and...
Don't give me the horse thing. Try and understand how I feel.
But isn't that what he's been doing? As it turns out, the reviews for MJ's performance are so consistently bad that she was fired.
Everything okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
No! You ruined it. In the first film, Peter became the one that MJ felt comfortable talking to about her lack of success. The driving force behind their dynamic was her feeling like she didn't have to pretend to be someone she wasn't around Peter. Now she gets fired and she doesn't want him to know. And to make things worse, she does tell Harry?
You came, you sent me flowers.
I did. I'll come again tonight.
You can't. I was let go.
You may recall that MJ had a fun spirit to her in the first film that was almost entirely absent from the second film. So what does the third film do? Well, you're gonna want to sit down for this one. She has her funness back, but only when she's alone with Harry.
It's a weird feeling not knowing who you are. Bump on the head, I'm as free as a bird.
Will you bump me on the head?
Bop.
Well, we can use that part.
Right.
When did you write that?
12th grade.
It's intense.
Are you trying to pit me against the endgame relationship? This is madness. Spider-Man arrives to be given the key to the city. While he's there, the crowd cries out for Gwen to kiss Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah, they'll love it.
No, Spider-Man, no!
All right.
I'm about to say something a little bit questionable. I think it's a little excusable for Spider-Man to kiss Gwen when you consider the context. I wouldn't say that Spider-Man is cheating on MJ as much as he was just putting on a show for the people. They were screaming for him to do it after all. MJ should be especially understanding since she's an actress. It wouldn't be cheating if MJ kissed another guy in one of her plays. That's just acting. I'll admit that the comparison is debatable, but you can judge this as Spider-Man putting on a performance. He certainly wasn't going behind MJ's back to do this. He knew MJ was watching the whole time, and he obviously thought she wouldn't be upset by this. So Peter goes out to a fancy restaurant hoping to propose. MJ tries to talk about feelings, but Peter steers the conversation towards himself.
Peter, you have no idea how I feel right now.
No, I know exactly how you feel. Listen, I have been through this. It happens to me all the time. I see Spider-Man posters in the window.
And then Gwen shows up to hurt MJ's feelings.
Hi, Pete.
Hi.
Actually, Gwen is pretty nice to her, but MJ constantly feels threatened.
This is Mary Jane Watson.
Oh, it's so nice to finally meet you. Pete talks about you all the time.
How come you never mentioned her? She's her lab partner? You saved her life? She thinks you're a genius and she had her polished fingernails all over you? Or didn't you notice?
It is possible that he didn't notice. I mean, he's not used to girls being interested. As far as I'm aware, you're the first girl to ever go out with him.
When you kissed her, who was kissing her? Spider-Man or Peter? That was our kiss. Why would you do that?
You, of all people, have the gall to ask me that! You ruined my life!
Are you kidding me? You who have kissed Spider-Man while dating Harry. You who tried to kiss Peter while engaged to John. You who made out with Peter while wearing the wedding dress that another man gave you. You have the gall to be upset with him for this. This is double standards in its purest form. MJ has been kissing behind people's back this whole trilogy. In fact, she's not done yet. But as soon as Peter gets to kiss someone else, she puts him in the doghouse, and then she just walks out as if Peter hadn't made a reservation at the high-class restaurant. Afterwards, he tries to calling her, but she doesn't pick up. Peter finds out it was actually Sandman, aka Flint Marko, who killed his uncle. MJ hears about it from Aunt May, and surprisingly, she goes to talk to him about it like a supportive, caring girlfriend.
Aunt May called me. She told me about what happened. She's worried about you. I'm worried about you.
Don't be. I'm fine.
I don't want you to do something stupid you'll regret. Like with that other guy.
I made a move and he fell. I told you that.
I'm not accusing you of anything.
MJ is actually doing exactly what she should be doing in this scene. It's a welcome break from what we've been through.
Will you turn that thing off? Peter, I'm here because I care about you. I want to be here for you.
Okay. I get it. Thank you. But I'm fine. I don't need your help.
Everybody needs help sometimes, Peter. Even Spider-Man.
And Peter's response is, how do I put this? It's the right kind of wrong response as opposed to the wrong kind of wrong response that we've been seeing. What I mean is Peter is acting this way because he's upset for reasons that are understandable. This should have been the first negative interaction between them in a relationship that should have been positive up till this point. After MJ leaves, the symbiote climbs onto Peter, becoming the new suits.
I can
see you from behind. You can hear me in your mind.
Let's talk about the black suits. This is a huge waste of golden material. As a good Dr. Connors explains, the symbiote makes Peter more aggressive and, in general, less morally sound person. The problem is that MJ doesn't see Peter's warped attitude until it's too late, and barely gets to comment on it, because Peter keeps taking the symbiote off before they see each other again. And once again, I have to deduct man points from Peter for not telling MJ anything. MJ gets a job as a singing waitress, a few dozen steps down from singing on Broadway. Disheartened by the setbacks, she decides to call Harry instead of Peter. And I don't know what's worse, the fact that MJ feels more comfortable with Harry than the endgame love interest, or the fact that her reaching out to a friend while her boyfriend has problems of his own is treated as a bad idea. MJ should be able to call her platonic friends when Peter is too busy to always be there for her. Here, the act of reaching out to her friend is treated as encouraging competition, and she regrets doing it. Why couldn't she reach out to her underrated friend from Spider-Man 2? Hopefully it's because she's on her honeymoon with John the Lucky Astronaut. This is cute. Why is this cute? Why are you making this cute? Why are you not putting the same level of cuteness into MJ and Peter's relationship? Are you kidding me? At least she apologizes and walks out.
Hi, it's me. Sing your song at the beach.
Hey, MJ. It's Peter. I want to talk to you about last night.
There's a lot going on in her mind, but you have to really think about it to pick up on it. As she walks towards the phone, planning to pick it up, you can see on her face that she feels bad about what she's put him through, and she's 100% ready to forgive him for everything he's put her through. She realizes that she's been doing everything that she's been mad at him for doing. Pushing the other away when they're just trying to help, not telling the other about devastating events, kissing someone else, but again, you have to really think about that to get it. And you're less likely to think about that because there's about to be something else that is really distracting.
If you want Peter to live, you're gonna do something for me.
Or did you just threaten to kill Spider-Man? you know how well that worked out the last time, right?
No!
Oh, please, great Surfer Man. Don't kill off the superhero who constantly defeats villains more dangerous than you. This is a joke. We have confirmation that the Avengers don't exist in this universe. So, as far as we know, Spider-Man is the toughest guy in his world. Harry has nothing on Spider-Man. And yet MJ, of all people, doesn't realize that. So Harry arranges for MJ and Peter to meet on this bridge so he can force MJ to break up with him. And MJ just does it. What? Did you expect MJ to show a little defiance? Did you expect her to have a little faith in Peter to beat him? Of course not. You remember who we're talking about, right? Wait a second, I do remember who we're talking about. This is supposed to be the same girl who screamed at Doc Ock demanding that he let her go, and almost laughed when Ock told her that Spider-Man's dead. But now, now, that's all out the window. MJ will now bend over backwards in service to the nearest chump who threatens her fragile little superhero who saved the city more than once. You can see MJ's true emotions shining through, showing that she doesn't actually want to do this. But it's hard to enjoy it when you know that it was a mistake to have her do this at all.
Well, she was fired from the show. Didn't she tell you?
She was fired? She was fired and she told you? She didn't tell me?
Do you see this? Do you understand what they're doing here? In the first film, Peter was MJ's confidant, but that title has been shifted to Harry, who she felt like she had to keep things secret from in the first film. That is brilliantly done. They had to think really hard to come up with this mistake that gets us to not root for our couple. Harry tells Peter that he's dating MJ, and Peter seems to believe the lie. However, he also figured out that Harry has his memories back, so he puts on the symbiote, confronts Harry, and beats him up. When I first saw this movie, I totally thought he was dead. Later, we get a montage of Peter's symbiote-altered attitude. I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is the internet has put the footage to good use. This version of Peter has been dubbed Bully McGuire, and many hilarious videos have been made putting the footage in different contexts.
Now dig on this.
I'm sorry.
You want forgiveness? Get religion.
You have had the privilege of being suffering by the great bully.
This is something else. Thanks, Hot Legs. You got any with nuts? Go make me some.
We'll handle this.
Is that all you got?
The bad news is that this film sees the return of the love web. Look at this! Peter asks out Gwen to spite MJ, and he also spites Eddie because Eddie wanted to date Gwen. And Harry kind of has feelings for MJ, but he kind of doesn't. It's really weird. And he also flirts with a bunch of other girls in that montage. It's bad enough that I have to put up with obstacle love interests at all. To make matters worse, we're supposed to be done with this. MJ and Peter got together at the end of Spider-Man 2. You cannot go back to love webs after your main ship has supposedly set sail. You cannot do that. It proves to us that we haven't actually gotten anywhere this whole time. Peter goes to a dance at the club MJ works at to spite her. Gwen is thankfully a sensible girl who doesn't like being used like that, so she walks out.
What's wrong with you?
You.
That's a valid answer. These guys try to show Peter the door, having no idea how dangerous it is to threaten Spider-Man while he's wearing the symbiotes.
Take him out of here. Let's go, sir.
Take your hand off of me.
Now.
Okay.
Hitting MJ was a wake-up call for Peter. He knew that the symbiote was messing with his personality and he decided to rip it off. However, the symbiote then bonded to Eddie, becoming Venom.
So, where to?
Oh nice, MJ gets to be a damsel in distress again. That's just about the only thing she's good for at this point.
Peter, they're gonna kill us both.
Will you ever show a little faith? Why the doom and gloom after Spider-Man has proven himself so many times? Now come on, MJ, we both know it doesn't work when you try to save the day. You remember what happened with Doc Ock when you tried to hit him with it? You know what? Fine. If you're going to do the same bit again, I'll do the same bit again. You see how well that cinder block works out for you. I'll play the music and say some sort of reaction when he knocks you over. Oh, you actually did it. Huh, I guess there's a first time for everything. I wonder if they regretted or got negative feedback for MJ's failure to help him in Spider-Man 2. Anyway, long story short, Harry shows up to help Spider-Man because he knows the truth about his father, and then he dies. This is supposed to be sad, but I can't be expected to care about anything at this point. Anyway, the villains are taken care of and MJ is safe. Hooray. In the previous films, there were scenes that cast doubt on whether or not Peter and MJ would be happy together. Spider-Man 3 was happy to confirm that these two are, in fact, a disaster. We never actually see them work out their problems by talking to each other, and there's little evidence that they grow to not make the same mistakes. Peter still keeps MJ out of the loop, and MJ still can't make up her mind about who she wants to kiss. The symbiote should have created a fascinating dynamic, but it barely made an impact on their relationship until that nightclub scene. So how would I fix this? I know this isn't an original statement, but Venom shouldn't have been in this film. I would keep the symbiote in Spider-Man 3 for the Black Suit Spider-Man storyline, but I would save Venom for a hypothetical Spider-Man 4. MJ needs to be fun on a regular basis while interacting with Peter, and cut all that nonsense about MJ getting fired and not telling him. In my reviews of the Sam Raimi trilogy, I've been explaining how to fix each one. My fix of Spider-Man 1 had a very different ending, so when I did my Spider-Man 2 review, I presented two different ways to fix Spider-Man 2. The first way was to fix Spider-Man 2 if we were stuck with the ending of Spider-Man 1 that actually happened. The other explanation was how would I fix Spider-Man 2 if we were going with my fixed version of Spider-Man 1. However, I'm not going to need to do 2 or 3 different versions of how to fix Spider-Man 3, because my suggestions of how to fix Spider-Man 3 would work with any selected timeline that we're going with. Here's how it should go. Peter and MJ are dating from the start, and they don't break up. Harry attacks Peter and fails to kill him, but he gets away without losing his memory. We're ditching that whole thing. After Harry gets away, Peter immediately tells MJ about the attack. Peter gets the symbiote and consistently wears it, as his personality is progressively warped. He's loving how the symbiote enhances his powers and doesn't see the downside to it, but MJ slowly notices the effect that it's having on him. MJ gets threatened by Harry, who arranges the meeting on the bridge, but in our version, she only pretends to go along with Harry's demands. Harry has a bug on her so he can listen to their conversation, but MJ cleverly signals to Peter that she's being coerced into doing this, using a few communication methods only he would understand. MJ could misreference a previous conversation, cluing him into the fact that something's wrong. Peter figures out what's happening and plays along with the act, letting Harry believe he successfully broke them up. Then Peter goes to confront Harry. Like I said before, I totally thought that Peter killed Harry when I saw this film for the first time. So, why not just have him actually die here? Yeah, we don't need him anymore. In this version, Peter doesn't need his help to fight Venom in the end. You might be sacrificing the redemption arc at the end, but isn't there something to be said for a realistic warning that not all your friends will stay your friends, and that you might not be able to get them back? Also, it would give Peter something to regret after he takes the symbiote off. So Peter goes back to MJ and says, "It's all good, I killed Harry." And she's like, "You killed Harry?" MJ talks to him about how the Spider-Man she knew didn't want to kill anybody, and expresses concern that the symbiote is turning him into something he's not. But Peter tells her that he doesn't believe that the symbiote is influencing him. He even tells her that she doesn't know what she's talking about, since she's not a superhero. He tells her that it's for the best that Harry is dead, because it ensures he won't be coming after them again. Peter brings up how the only reason Norman isn't still a problem is because he's dead too, and MJ, not being a superhero, begrudgingly defers to his judgment. Cue the Bully Maguire montage. But this time, MJ catches Peter lightly flirting with other girls while he's supposed to be loyal to her. Then Peter takes MJ on a date to a nightclub instead of Gwen. Instead of dancing, Peter tries to play the band's piano, much to the band's annoyance. MJ is embarrassed and apologizes for her boyfriend's behavior, but Peter refuses to leave the piano alone. Then the bouncer shows up and tries to kick him out, prompting Peter to go berserk. MJ tries to stop him, but Peter ends up hitting her and immediately regrets it. Peter runs out of the nightclub, but MJ runs out after him. Peter apologizes, and MJ tells him that he has to get rid of the symbiote, which he is correctly convinced is making him act this way. Peter tears the symbiote off, and that's the last we see of it until Spider-Man 4. But fear not, we still have one villain left for the climax. With the symbiote gone, Peter thanks MJ for tucking some sense into him, and MJ jokingly says that maybe Peter will be quicker to listen to her the next time an alien bonds to him. Sandman comes back for one more fight, and afterward we jump ahead to a few weeks later. Why the time skip? Because the next part shouldn't happen so soon after the symbiote business. They need some time to recover. Peter proposes to MJ— No! Better idea! Stay with me, I'm onto something. In the past films, Peter has been insecure about his financial situation, even thinking that it's something that comes between him and MJ. What if Peter had been wanting to propose to her, but he wasn't sure if he could afford a ring, and he wasn't sure if he could financially provide for her. But MJ has her own career as an actress, and it doesn't bother her that Peter isn't rich. So MJ is the one to produce the ring, and she proposes to Peter instead. Brilliant! Having MJ propose to Peter would have given her a much needed thing to brag about. Peter's already a superhero who saved her an uncountable number of times. Actually, I did count, it was 8. So he still wouldn't be making Spider-Man unaccomplished. Now I've reviewed every film in the Sam Raimi trilogy. So you know what we need to do now? Well, I'll review the Amazing Spider-Man movies soon, but I want to have something else between my Spider-Man videos. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and not miss the part where that's your problem.